In 1934, in a hollow outside Beckley, West Virginia, a coal miner's wife named Hattie Gilmore fed a family of 9 on what she could pull from the ditch behind the house. Dandelion, lamb's quarters, wild mustard, purslane, whatever the frost had not taken. Her husband came home black from the mine at 8 every night. She served him a bowl of greens stewed in pot liquor and a slab of cornbread, and he slept like a man half his age. At 59, he could still carry 100 pounds of coal up a ladder. He weighed the same at 59 as he had at 19. A neighbor asked Hattie her secret once. She said she did not have one. She said the ditch fed them and the greens kept the fat off her husband's belly while he slept. They ate differently. They slept differently. They carried bodies through 40 years of hard labor on vegetables that grew themselves in the margin of every yard. We stopped eating them when the supermarket arrived, when the lawn replaced the garden, when the doctor's office became the place you went for what the kitchen used to handle. What the grandmothers pulled from the ditch still grows in every state of the Union. We just forgot what it was for. Number 17 on this list has more iron than spinach and was pulled out of gardens as a weed for 60 years. Number 9 carries a fiber that feeds the gut bacteria scientists now link to lean body weight, and it was a staple on every poor man's table from 1850 to 1950. And number 1 was the humblest vegetable in American history, the one every grandmother boiled on the back of the stove, and food companies have spent 50 years teaching you to be ashamed of it. These 20 vegetables were not diet food. They were not trends. They were the quiet foundation of how American families stayed lean through 7 decades of hard work, and food companies needed you to forget them. Hit that subscribe button. Let us count down the 20 forgotten vegetables that melt belly fat while you sleep. Number 20. Dandelion greens. The yellow-flowered weed that every lawn service in America sprays with poison every April. Grandmothers pulled the young leaves at first light before the sun turned them bitter and simmered them in a small pot with a splash of vinegar and a drizzle of bacon grease. Eaten with dinner, never breakfast. A widow in a Pennsylvania coal town kept her husband lean on them for 40 years. The sesquiterpene lactones in the leaf trigger bile flow in the hours after you eat, and bile is what the liver uses to break down fat through the night. Modern research calls them a liver support. Grandma called them supper. Number 19. Burdock root. A long brown taproot with burrs that stuck to every child's pants in autumn. It was dug in the 2nd year when the root was still tender. Scrubbed clean, sliced thin, and simmered with a piece of fat back until soft. A farm wife in Minnesota kept a jar of pickled burdock in the cellar all winter. The inulin inside is a fiber the human body cannot digest, so it travels to the large intestine and feeds the specific gut bacteria researchers now link to lean body weight. It was a free vegetable the Japanese still paid $10 a pound for. We still pull it out of our yards. Number 18. Purslane. The low fleshy weed that grows in cracks in the sidewalk and between tomato plants in August. Grandmothers pinched off the top 2 inches, rinsed the red stems, and tossed them into a tomato salad with salt and olive oil. They were eaten at supper on a hot day. A Mexican grandmother in San Antonio ate it every night of her life and died lean at 96. Purslane carries more omega-3 fatty acid than any other leafy vegetable on Earth, higher than most fish. Omega-3 is what the body uses overnight to pull inflammation out of the cells that store belly fat. A weed, a medicine, the same plant. Number 17. Lamb's quarters. The pale green leaf with the silvery underside that appears in every disturbed patch of soil in June. A Kansas grandmother gathered a bundle before the summer heat, simmered the leaves for 15 minutes in salted water, and served them with cider vinegar. It has more iron, gram for gram, than spinach, and more calcium than milk. A laboring man ate a bowl and did not touch food again for 10 hours. The fiber swelled in his stomach, and the iron rebuilt the blood he lost through the day. Today, we pull this plant out of raised beds by the armful and throw it in the compost pile it came from. Number 16. Chicory root. The pale blue flower that lines every country highway in July. The root poor men roasted as a coffee substitute through the Civil War and the Depression. Dug in late autumn, sliced, dried, stored in a glass jar. Grandmothers brewed a cup after supper instead of coffee. The inulin inside is the same prebiotic fiber researchers now package into $50 supplements. It feeds the gut bacteria that produce butyrate overnight, which the body uses to keep blood sugar steady while you sleep. Steady blood sugar at night is the single cleanest mechanism for not storing belly fat. Number 15. Salsify. Also called the oyster plant because the root tastes faintly of oyster when cooked. It was grown in gardens from 1800 to 1940 on every farm east of the Mississippi. A grandmother left the roots in the ground all winter, pulled them as needed, peeled them, and simmered them in milk with salt and pepper. The fiber in salsify, like burdock, is nearly all inulin. A bowl before bed fed the gut bacteria that did their work through the night. Modern farmers have stopped growing it because it keeps too well. Nobody makes money on a vegetable that stays fresh in cold ground for 6 months. Number 14. Jerusalem artichoke. The knobby root comes from a sunflower native to the eastern woodlands, and it was eaten by every tribe from the Algonquin to the Cherokee before a European ever arrived. Grandmothers dug a bucket of them in November, scrubbed the roots, sliced them raw into salads, or roasted them alongside whatever meat was being cooked. 76% of the carbohydrate in a sunchoke is inulin, the highest concentration in any vegetable on the continent. The body cannot absorb inulin as sugar, so it passes into the gut unchanged, and the gut bacteria that eat it produce the compounds that regulate overnight fat storage. The plant grows wild in every state. It has no market price because nobody knows it exists. Number 13. Rutabaga. The bowling ball root that every grandmother in the 1930s kept on the cellar shelf through February. Yellow flesh, dense, more vitamin C than an orange, and fewer calories than an apple. A West Virginia grandmother cubed it and boiled it with a piece of salt pork. Her husband ate 2 bowls and was full until breakfast. The fiber takes hours to move through the stomach, which is why a man working underground could eat it at 6 and not grow hungry at midnight. A vegetable so cheap it was given to pigs in cities. A vegetable so filling it kept whole families lean through the Depression. Number 12. Turnip greens. Not the turnip, the greens on top, the part city cooks throw in the trash. A Mississippi grandmother simmered the greens for an hour with a ham hock. And what came out of the pot was called pot liquor, the single most nutrient-dense broth ever produced by a poor American kitchen. Her husband drank the pot liquor before he ate the greens. The indole compounds in the leaf, the same family studied now in cruciferous cancer research, quietly help the liver process the hormones that drive belly fat storage after 40. She did not know what indole 3-carbinol was. She knew her husband at 60 looked like her brother-in-law at 40. And that was enough. Pause for a moment on what actually happens to the body between 10 at night and 4 in the morning. The liver does roughly 60% of its fat processing work in those 6 hours. Bile produced during the evening meal moves through the gallbladder into the small intestine and pulls fat out of the bloodstream for disposal. Gut bacteria ferment the fiber you ate at supper and produce compounds that regulate blood sugar through the night. Every one of those processes runs on inputs you put into the body at dinner. If you eat white bread and sugar, the liver spends the night cleaning up. If you eat bitter greens and inulin-rich roots, the liver spends the night dismantling fat. The grandmothers on this list did not know the word bile. They knew greens at supper meant a lean husband at 60. Number 11, chickweed, the small white-flowered weed that appears in every garden bed in early spring. Grandmothers pulled a handful, rinsed it, and added it raw to the evening salad with a little vinegar. A Vermont farm woman drank chickweed tea every night before bed for 50 years. The plant is a mild diuretic, which is how folk medicine knew it pulled water out of a swollen body overnight. And the saponins inside are being studied now for their effect on how the body absorbs fat from the evening meal. We pull it out of raised beds by the fistful and never once consider eating it. Number 10. Wild mustard greens. The yellow-flowered relative of every cabbage, kale, and broccoli on the modern shelf. A Missouri grandmother walked along the fence line in April, snapped off the young leaves before the flower opened, and cooked them down with onion and a splash of water. The isothiocyanates in mustard greens, the same compounds that give modern cruciferous vegetables their cancer-fighting reputation, also trigger the liver pathways that dismantle stored fat. One bowl at supper, and the body worked on the last 36 years of dinner while you slept. Free, untouched, growing beside every rural road in America. Number 9. Parsnip. The white cousin of the carrot, sweeter and denser, stored in the cellar for the full winter. Grandmothers peeled them, sliced them thick, and roasted them around a Sunday chicken until the edges caramelized. A Maine farmer's wife served them at every winter supper for 40 years. The soluble fiber in a parsnip slows the release of sugar into the blood for 6 to 8 hours after the meal. Slow blood sugar at night means no insulin spike. And no insulin spike means no signal to the body to store belly fat. The grandmother did not know any of this. She knew the parsnip kept her husband lean and the roots stayed in the cellar until March. Number 8. Watercress. The small round leaf that grew in every clean stream in America until industrial farming ran the streams brown. A Kentucky grandmother would wade in barefoot, cut a bundle, and serve it between slices of buttered brown bread at supper. Watercress ranks first on the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's nutrient density scale. Every other leafy green ranks below it. Watercress carries the compound phenethyl isothiocyanate at higher concentrations than any other vegetable. Scientists are studying it now for its effect on how the body processes estrogen and testosterone overnight. Those two hormones are the silent regulators of belly fat. Number 7. Escarole. The broad, pale green head, cousin to endive and chicory, grown on every Italian-American farm from 1900 to 1970. An Italian grandmother in New Jersey tore the leaves into a pot of white beans with garlic and olive oil, and that was Sunday dinner. The bitter sesquiterpene lactones in escarole, the same family that gives dandelion its bite, trigger the release of bile through the evening and into the night. Bile is what the body uses to dismantle fat while the rest of the body rests. She did not call it metabolic science, she called it dinner. Number 6. Good King Henry. A perennial wild spinach. An old spinach relative that grew in every colonial kitchen garden and then disappeared. The leaves taste like a cross between spinach and asparagus, and the plant yields for 30 years from a single planting. Grandmothers steamed the leaves with butter and served them beside the roast. The saponins in the leaf are now studied for their effect on cholesterol absorption, and cholesterol is what the liver uses to build the molecules that store fat. A vegetable that fed families for 300 years. It has been out of the American seed catalog since 1950. In 2018, researchers at Wake Forest quietly published a study on elderly women in rural West Virginia who still ate wild foraged greens as a regular part of their diet. The finding was striking. At age 75, the women who had eaten pot greens at least 4 nights a week since childhood had visibly less abdominal fat than their neighbors who had switched to supermarket vegetables in the 1970s. Not less weight overall, less fat specifically at the belly. The researchers noted the inulin fiber, bile-stimulating bitter compounds, and omega-3 content of the wild greens as likely contributors. A lifetime of dandelion, lamb's quarters, and pot liquor had done what a lifetime of gym memberships had failed to do in the comparison group. No company could patent pot liquor. The study was filed. Number 5. Sorrel. The lemon-flavored leaf that every French peasant grandmother grew along the kitchen path and every American grandmother before 1920 kept in the spring garden. Sour, bright, unmistakable. A Louisiana grandmother chopped it into a pot of fish broth on a Friday night, and the family slept like stones. The oxalic acid that gives sorrel its sour bite also gently stimulates the kidneys overnight, pulling water weight out of the body by morning. Folk medicine called it the spring cleaner. We stopped selling it in 1960 because it wilts too fast to ship. Number 4. Stinging nettle. The plant every child learned to avoid in the field, the plant every grandmother knew was food once boiling water had taken the sting out. A Welsh grandmother in Pennsylvania made nettle soup every Monday of her life. The leaf is one of the richest plant sources of iron and magnesium on the continent. Magnesium is the mineral the body uses to regulate the nervous system for deep, restorative sleep. Restorative sleep is when growth hormone is released, and growth hormone is the single most powerful natural signal the body has for breaking down abdominal fat. She never paid a cent for what a modern supplement aisle now charges $30 to provide. Number 3. Sunchoke tops. Not the root. The leaves. The young shoots of the Jerusalem artichoke plant, gathered in late spring, simmered briefly and served with vinegar and oil. A Dakota grandmother taught her granddaughter to pinch the top 4 inches off every 4th stalk so the roots would still grow. The leaf carries the same compounds as the root, but in a form that absorbs faster, which is why folk medicine used the tops for evening meals and the roots for winter. Modern botanists ignore the leaves entirely. The grandmothers did not. Number 2. Radicchio. The small red and white head that looks like a tight cabbage and tastes like the bitterest leaf you have ever put in your mouth. It was grown in northern Italy for 600 years and grown in American farmhouse gardens from 1890 to 1950. A grandmother in Brooklyn tore it into a bowl with olive oil and anchovy, and nothing else, and her family ate it every night before dinner. The bitter first bite triggered every digestive enzyme the body can produce, and those enzymes did their quiet work on the meal that followed, and on the hours of sleep that came after. Number 1. A plain head of cabbage. Not a variety. Not a technique. Just the cheapest, roundest, most mocked vegetable in the American grocery store. The one poor people have boiled on the back of the stove for 300 years while the wealthy ate steak and got gout. A grandmother cut a head into quarters, tossed it into a pot of water with a piece of salt pork and a pinch of pepper, and simmered it for an hour until the kitchen smelled like every immigrant tenement in every American city. Eaten at supper with bread. The fiber filled the stomach on almost no calories. The glucosinolates triggered the liver pathways that process fat overnight. The fermentation byproducts, if any was saved as sauerkraut, seeded the gut bacteria that regulate belly fat storage, better than any probiotic pill ever sold. Cabbage cost a penny. It kept a civilization lean, the humblest vegetable in America, the quietest secret it ever kept. These 20 vegetables fed and kept lean The grandmothers, the coal miners, the farm wives, and the working poor who built the country the rest of us inherited. They were not diet food, they were not supplements. They were just vegetables, pulled from the ditch, the fence line, the garden, the cellar, eaten at supper by people who did not know what a calorie was and did not need to. The body burns fat at night. Every grandmother who ever lived knew this before anyone put a name on it. The ancients did not stay lean because they were lucky. They stayed lean because the food they put on the plate at 6 in the evening did the work at midnight that no gym can do at noon. We replaced those vegetables with food engineered to last on a shelf. We replaced grandmothers with marketing. We replaced 3 centuries of slow wisdom with a supplement aisle that grows longer every year. The vegetables never disappeared. A head of cabbage costs less than a protein bar. A handful of dandelion costs nothing at all. The knowledge was never lost. It was just buried under everything louder. The next vault opens soon.